Hey everyone, it's Doc Pep. Today, we're tackling a big one, a compound you've probably seen all over the internet, CJC-1295. It's talked about a lot for things like muscle growth and fat loss, but with all that buzz, it's hard to know what's real. So we're going to cut through all the hype and give you a straight-up, science-based breakdown of what this stuff is, how it's supposed to work, and what the actual data says. All right, before we get into the nitty-gritty, you know the drill, and this is super important. This is for your education only. This is not, and I repeat, not medical advice. Always talk to a qualified healthcare pro about any health concerns or before you make any decisions. Okay? Let's do this.
So let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine for a second, what if you could send one single, super long-lasting signal to your body? A message that just keeps telling it, hey, release more growth hormone. Keep that idea in your head because that is the absolute core concept behind the technology we're about to unpack.
To make sure we cover all our bases, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics. What even are peptides? Then we'll get right into CJC-1295 and something called the DAC. After that, we'll follow its journey inside the body, check out the reported effects versus the hard data, and wrap up with the risks and the regulatory reality. Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first. Before we can even begin to understand CJC-129, we have to start with the fundamentals. So, let's answer that big question. What in the world are peptides?
I want you to think about it like this. If proteins are these long, complicated sentences, then peptides are like short, powerful words. They're these little chains of amino acids, which are literally the building blocks for proteins, and their whole job is to act like tiny messengers, zipping around your body, delivering very specific commands to your cells. And your body is basically a peptide factory. It makes thousands of different kinds to run the whole show. You've heard of insulin, right? The hormone that helps control blood sugar? That's a peptide. Endorphins, your body's own natural painkiller system? Also peptides. Now, synthetic peptides, and this is where CJC-1295 comes in, are just lab-made versions designed to either copy or tweak the actions of those natural messengers. Okay, now that we're all on the same page about what a peptide is, let's zoom in on our main topic, CJC-1295, and more importantly, this really clever piece of bioengineering that comes with it, known as the drug affinity complex, or just the DAC.
So, at its very heart, CJC-1295 is what we call a synthetic analog. Fancy words for a lab-made copy of a natural hormone your body produces called, you guessed it, growth hormone releasing hormone, or GHRH. Your brain makes GHRH to send a very specific text message to your pituitary gland that says, hey, time to release some growth hormone. CJC-1295 is engineered to send that exact same message.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. This is the secret sauce. You see, your natural GHRH and even some of the earlier synthetic versions, they don't last long at all. Their half-life, that's how long it takes for half of it to be cleared from your body, is only about 30 minutes. But CJC-1295 is built differently. That DAC component, it acts like a tiny molecular anchor. It finds a really common protein in your blood called albumin and just latches on, protecting the peptide from getting broken down. And the result? The half-life skyrockets from just minutes to around 8 days. That's a total game changer. A short, fleeting signal becomes a long, persistent one.
So we know what it is, but what does that journey actually look like inside the body? Come on, let's follow the path from the moment it's injected all the way down to the action at the cellular level. Okay, so it starts with what's called a subcutaneous injection, right under the skin. As soon as it hits the bloodstream, that DAC anchor goes to work, grabbing onto albumin. This new, protected molecule then cruises through your system until it arrives at its destination, the pituitary gland. There, it fits like a key into the GHRH receptors and delivers its message. The pituitary then does its job and releases growth hormone. But wait, there's more. It's a chain reaction. That burst of growth hormone then signals the liver to start producing another really powerful hormone called IGF-1.
And you really got to appreciate the pituitary gland's role here. I mean, this thing is tiny, about the size of a pea, tucked away at the base of your brain. But they call it the master gland for a reason. It's basically the mission control for your body's entire hormone system. So when you stimulate it, you're pushing a button in a very powerful control center. So what's the deal with that IGF-1? Well, here's a good way to think about it. If growth hormone is the general who gives the command from headquarters, IGF-1 is like the special forces team that actually goes out into the field and carries out the mission. It's the IGF-1 that's responsible for a lot of the actual effects people associate with growth hormone, like cell growth and tissue repair. Which of course brings us to the million-dollar question. What does all of this hormonal signaling actually do? So let's take a look at the claims you hear all the time, and then compare them to what the clinical and regulatory data really shows. You don't have to look far online to find a pretty consistent list of supposed benefits, right? Things like more muscle mass and strength, quicker fat loss, faster recovery from injuries, better cellular repair. I mean, some people even claim it can slow down how the pituitary gland ages. I know, that all sounds pretty incredible, but these are just claims. What does the real scientific evidence, and maybe more importantly, what do the official regulatory bodies like the FDA actually have to say about all this? Okay, this is absolutely crucial to understand. First off, the data confirms the mechanism works. That's not up for debate. Studies clearly show that, after an injection, GH and IGF-1 levels go up and stay elevated for as long as 2 weeks. But, and these are big buts, the FDA's review pointed out two massive issues. First, this constant, steady signal is not physiologic. That means it's not natural. Your body releases its own GHRH in short little bursts or pulses. It's a rhythm. This constant on switch completely bypasses that natural system, and we just don't know the long-term consequences of that. And second, the FDA states flat out that there is no data to prove it's actually useful for treating any medical condition. And that leads us right into what might just be the most important section of this whole explainer. We need to talk about the known risks, the very big unknowns, and the official regulatory status of this compound. So, what do we know? Well, safety studies in humans have reported side effects like reactions at the injection site, headaches, nausea, and hypotension. That's just a fancy word for low blood pressure. Animal studies, on the other hand, showed some more concerning things, like inflammation, bleeding, and even mild necrosis, which means some of the tissue actually died at the injection sites.
And then there's this. And I really want you to listen closely because this is a direct quote from FDA advisory documents. It says there was a clinical trial that was reportedly stopped early after a person receiving CJC-1295 died. The study was shut down and the data was never published. That leaves a massive unanswered question mark hanging over its safety profile.
On top of that, the FDA points to three huge unknowns. First, as we said, the long-term safety of this unnatural constant hormone signal is a complete mystery. Second, there's a serious risk of something called immunogenicity. This is where your body's immune system might start making antibodies to fight the drug. And because CJC-1295 looks so much like your own GHRH, those antibodies could get confused and start attacking your body's own natural hormone, potentially shutting down your ability to make growth hormone for good. And finally, since this isn't a regulated drug, anything from an unregulated source is a total gamble. It could be impure, contaminated, or the wrong dose entirely. Which brings us to the final, crystal clear regulatory bottom line. CJC-1295 is classified as an investigational substance. It has not been approved by the FDA for any medical use in human beings, period. So let's just tie this all together with a bow. CJC-1295 with DAC is, without a doubt, a powerful and cleverly designed long-acting peptide. It absolutely does what it was made to do. It stimulates GH and IGF-1 for a long time. But its long-term safety is a total unknown, it creates an unnatural state in the body, and it is not approved for human use.
At the end of the day, knowledge is your best tool. The more you genuinely understand the science behind these things, the smarter and safer your choices will be. This was Doc Pept, explaining complex things simply, so you can decide for yourself. Thanks for joining me.